Hello humans. Today I wanted to talk about this right here. This is the LTT scribedriver. So LTT obviously stands for Linus Tech Tips. It's a YouTube channel. Hey, it's on this thing. They do mostly tech reviews, a lot of stuff like that. They're one of the longest lasting kind of major channels out there. They've definitely cemented their place. Very, very interesting kind of history going on there, which I dig personally. But yeah, they've been around the block a couple times, and recently one of their I don't know if you can call it a side project, but like the revenue sources is a company called Creator Warehouse, which it feels derivative to call it a merch store, but functionally it's a merch store. They make, or it's a product manufacturer, really and truly, and they make a bunch of different stuff. Anyway, so one of the things that they made that have been wildly successful have been screwdrivers. And at the starting process, I believe, of making the screwdrivers, they were ordering shafts in to be manufactured in China, and they had a supplier that screwed them over a little bit, where they didn't get good knurling, is my understanding. So after a while, and it's like 100,000, they got like a full shipment of these that just were not knurled correctly for screwdrivers. So one of the things that ended up happening as part of this process is they started, I'm fuzzy on this, I should have looked back up the story, but my understanding is that somebody on their product development team was screwing around with one of the defect shafts and decided to turn it into a screwdriver, and they liked the design and back and forth, and then that's how this product here ended up existing. So this is the scribedriver. I got the one with the brass accents. I'm not entirely sure if it's real brass or just anodized steel or anodized aluminum or whatever the hell it happens to be. But I am pretty excited for this guy because I actually don't own a bolt action pen at the moment. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. All right. I think for a knife review channel, I would have more knives closer to me, but this is the one I've got on hand. And that can go right there. Something that I like immediately, very, very clean packaging design. Like, this is just the product, name, some details. I think that's pretty cool. Ooh, the inside of the box is orange. That's also kind of neat. Nothing else. Plain cardboard box. I love this. Burn it, recycle it. Do whatever you do with it. Environmental. Alrighty then. Wow, that's really nice. I don't actually own an LTT screwdriver. I have this Canadian-made roll gear, which has been working out well for me. So I haven't actually experienced what the knurling is supposed to feel like. I think this is probably real brass. This has got like a significant amount of weight to it. That's actually really nice. The knurling is quite nice. I can see what they mean. Like, it's not super aggressive. If I was wearing gloves or something like that, I don't think I would love this. So on a screwdriver shaft, I can understand that. But the design is very simple, kind of industrial. You've got knurled section, tip, and then you have this pocket clip held in place with two, they look like hex head screws. So the pocket clip looks really good. Very simple, folded over steel pocket clip. I can see why people love these. Spring tension on that's actually really, really good. It's not like quite as satisfying as the bolt action of a bolt action rifle, but it's up there. That's pretty sweet. Maybe like a bolt action 22. Anyways, metal on metal rub. That's really cool. And of course, I'm going to pop it open and take a look inside. Can I get this to come out? Okay, I might do more disassembly, but we're gonna see what we get here. We get a Schmidt Easy Flow 9000M, which means this will take a whole lot of different styles of refill. We do actually get a little tiny O-ring. It's very fine threading, wow. So that's kind of cool. Just, I give props. That is actually a pretty nice pocket clip, or not pocket clip. That is a pretty nice pen spring. That's got some good spring to it. As somebody who has disassembled a lot of pens, mostly at school, mostly when I was not supposed to, that is very nice. Is this going to... Okay. I don't think I'll be able to disassemble it any further, but I'm pretty sure that that is actual brass, which is kind of neat. It definitely puts the weight a little bit further back, which is pretty cool. The seam pretty much, like, I can feel the seam very slightly if I use my nail, but the seam essentially disappears. The brass version definitely puts the weight comfortably far back. Let's take a writing sample. I will say, and this is probably just a function of bolt action pens, there is a way in which this is comfortable in the hand, and then there's other ways, every other way, which is this is not very comfortable in the hand. So I'm finding with both of the sort of accessories facing outwards, this is very comfortable in the hand. The weight's in a nice place. If I turn it over, this becomes relatively uncomfortable, which is just worth noting. My name is yeah, all right. The refill in there's nice. The weight being a little bit further back makes this feel very sort of flowy, which is kind of cool. This is definitely not the best insert I've ever experienced, but it's writing well at an angle, which not all do, so I do give it props for that. Okay, it's not super duper loving that, but that's not the end of the world. Yeah, so it's not definitely far from the greatest insert I've ever experienced, but it's also pretty far from the worst. Yeah, so I mean, it works. It feels good in the hand. The pocket clip is very, very basic, bent over. That's going to be sheet steel. Yeah. Very slight magnetism. I don't know what they're using, like what grade stainless steel they're using for their screwdrivers, but the pocket clip definitely has a lot more magnetism to it than actually. I'm going to check something because it might be connecting to the insert and not the... Yeah, it was picking up the insert. So whatever grade stainless they're using, there's lots of grades of stainless that are not magnetic. Whatever grade of steel they're using for their screwdriver shafts are very, very minimally magnetic. Which does not matter very much, to be honest. It's just something neat that I noticed. So I don't know how well you're going to be able to see that. On the inside, it's just a perfectly flat cap to fit over this, which is nice. I have seen 1 or 2 bolt action style pens where you have to line the cartridge up perfectly in order to get it to interface properly. This is not like that. This one here will, you just thread it all the way down, and no matter what, we're good. LTT logo, Linus Tech Tips logo right there in our little switch. Yeah, I mean, the weight on it is nice. It's definitely not as heavy as, like, my everyday pen. Actually, while we're here, we're going to do some size comparisons before the second part of this section. So here it is next to my Karas Pen Company Ink V2. And here it is next to my Phoenix T5 Ti. As you can see, it's a little bit longer than the Phoenix, and it's essentially the exact same length, at least capped as the Ink V2. Let's uncap both of these just for shits and giggles. This one does not post. This one here will be basically the same length because it does in fact post. Yeah, so that gives you those sizes. Gonna close these so they don't potentially make a mess later. Here it is next to just a Zebra F301, It is ever so slightly longer than the F301. And do I want to do another pen or do I want to... I'm going to do a pencil. Let's just do a simple number 2 pencil, if I have one, somewhere in my desk. It's very possible that I don't. I do. Winning. This is just a brand new number 2 pencil. Yeah. So as you can see, you know, it's a pretty normal size for a pen. It's fairly slim, at least compared to what I am used to on the day-to-day. But that should be a pretty interesting experience. I am actually kind of excited to experience this. The finish on it is this really nice matte gray color. The pocket clip is just bare finish is what I'm going to assume that they're calling that. The little pop of copper or brass looks really nice in my opinion, and it puts the weight in a very comfortable spot in my hand. Writing with it felt pretty good. The fidget factor is definitely like the big draw of something like this, and I can say for sure this is a very, very fidget friendly object, which is pretty nice. It's also not a hard 90 at the top. If you just straight up push it forward, it hits a point where it curves over. So that makes it really easy to manipulate, which I give props for. I've seen some bolt action pens that are like either a hard 90 or very, very close to a hard 90 at the bottom, which can make them not uncomfortable to operate, but slightly more difficult than strictly speaking necessary. This is very, very much not that. I am a little bit concerned with it opening in my pocket, but we're going to see if it does that over the time that I carry it. So, yeah, I'm going to play with this guy for a little bit, and I'll come back in a couple weeks. And we are back. So I've been playing with this guy on and off for about 3 weeks now. And overall, I have to say I am fairly impressed. So, how to break this down? This is very different from the pens that I normally like to carry. I normally like to carry particularly larger pens and particularly weightier pens. The pen that I have been carrying as a daily driver since I got it is the Keras Pen Company Ink V2 in brass. This is a heavy object. This is not a particularly heavy object. It is actually very light, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but is a very different experience. So as far as in the hand, I didn't really like pinching it the way that I like to pinch my heavier pens. I actually found that it performed better just kind of laying it in my hand and writing like that. Something else I found, the cartridge that comes standard in it, it didn't work very well on heavier materials. So like, it worked fine in notebook paper, it worked fine in like lined paper, that kind of a thing, but as soon as I brought it to my sketching book, it had a lot of trouble transferring, and I'm assuming it's just because it's a thicker line weight paper, but I found it completely unusable. It just would not, I couldn't get it to transfer consistently onto thicker papers, and I tried it with a couple of different heavier weight papers, and it just, anything past, like, notebook paper, good, line paper, good, anything that says drawing, sketching in the title, it didn't like. Not the end of the world, and you can get different replacements. This thing fits, I believe, a Pilot G2 cartridge. So there's a million, Parker G2, sorry, not Pilot, Parker G2 cartridge. So there's 1,000,002 different cartridges that will fit and will work. Never had to disassemble it. The pocket clip worked really, really well, and it leaves enough sticking out of the pocket to make it easy to grab, even with gloves on, and that is actually something I need to give this a huge props for. This is really easy to use with gloves. There's enough of a post for the actual bolt action mechanism, and it's not a very precise kneading bolt action mechanism. If I just slide this forward, it throws itself into the open position. So even with heavy gloves, it's not difficult to manipulate. It's a little bit more on the close, but if you just go forward, it'll open, close, open, close. So if you're wearing big, heavy gloves, this remains a very easy pen to manipulate and to open, which I actually found to be a surprising positive. Again, I normally don't do a pen this thin, and especially with gloves, something this thin can be uncomfortable to use, but because of how easy the action is to manipulate, and because of the fact that this knurling is, it's definitely not like something I would want on a tool, but for just having enough traction to not slip around in a pair of gloves, I found I could just pinch it with my 2 index fingers and I could write just fine. So this works surprisingly well with gloves, which really impressed me. I was not expecting that. The action is absolutely addictive. It is noisy enough it will annoy some people. I work in a loud environment. I work in an environment that requires me to wear earplugs all day. I can hear this very easily through the earplugs and other people around me. If somebody came into my booth and I was fidgeting with it whilst I was trying to line something up or playing with a couple of pieces, people could hear and notice that I was playing with something. So there is that to consider, but it really is not that big of a deal. Held together well, didn't try and unscrew at any point, didn't try to disassemble itself at any point, so those are both definitely positives. It's a nice pen, and I got it on sale for 20 bucks. Currently, on the LTT website, it is 40 Canadian dollars. Even at 40 bucks, it's definitely competitive, for a few reasons. First off, the machining quality of it is quite nice. Like I said, it's just about seamless. If I'm really trying, I can find the seam with my nail, but just with the pads on my fingers, it's very, very hard to feel where the seam is. The pocket clip screws are in there well. They never came undone. The pocket clip is held very securely in place. The action feels really good. The spring tensioner, like the spring in there, is definitely the correct spring to be using, and it provides an addictive action. So even the button, like you can see, it's lined up. The logo is lined up with the shaft. Like, the little details were done well here. It's definitely not to the level of, like, a multi-$100 pen. But even, like, the threading feels fine. Everything about it feels like it was well done. So, as far as budget pens go, and this is very much a budget pen for the nicer pens, it's really good. In terms of, like, a price comparison, it's about half the cost of my Phoenix TI5. So, and it feels better. The threading on this one here feels better. The action on it, I mean, this doesn't really have an action, it's an unthread, but this does feel better put together. So, I think that this is a pretty nice bargain at the price. Again, I am just waiting for this to run out of ink before I can replace the refill. It's very light, it's very thin. It's not something that I'm going to use all of the time for those reasons specifically, because I prefer a thicker pen, quite frankly. That is a lot of the reason why. But if I'm wearing a suit, if I'm going to a nicer event, this is going to be in contention. The other pen that I carry is the, I forget what the, Cross ATX, that's what this is. I carry the Cross ATX a lot if I'm going to a nicer event where I need to wear a suit, something like that. If I need to go to an event that's not quite Cross ATX nice, but I'm not wearing a pair of jeans, this is probably going to fit nicely in there just because it is lighter weight, slimmer. If I need to put a pen in a shirt pocket instead of a pants pocket for whatever reason, this one here is a very attractive option. It's very easy to throw in a bag. It's very easy to hand to somebody. This is a very appealing option as just sort of a handy, reliable ballpoint pen. And if I'm traveling or something like that, I'm not necessarily going to want a fountain pen that can leak and stuff like that. So this might become a travel pen for me, genuinely. It's a really nice pen. It's well made, it feels good in the action, and the finish on it is going to wear well. You can actually already see it's got some stuff, some scratches and stuff on it, and it looks really good. It's going to wear really well because it looks like a piece of machinery. It's made from tool parts, right? So I definitely think that it is worth picking up. They do sales all the time. I'd pick it up on a sale just to save yourself a little bit of money because it's worth doing that, but it looks really good. The little pop of brass I really like. It's not going to be to everyone's taste, but I personally really like it. It is a lighter pen. If you like a heavier pen, this probably isn't going to be super appealing to you. And it's a thinner pen, which, same deal, right? Like, if you like a thicker pen, this might not be as appealing to you, and that is completely and utterly understandable. I like making lemonade from lemons. I like companies reusing failed products, and I like recycling generally. So something like this really appeals to me personally as well, which, like it or not, is a reason people buy things. So all of that in consideration, this is pretty cool, and I think it is definitely worth checking it out. Yeah, that's kind of all I have to say on it. Definitely worth a purchase if you're in the market for a pen, especially a more budget-oriented pen. It's good. That's all it needs to be. Stay safe and have fun out there. Peace.